Welcome back once again. This is your boy Shane G. This is OTI, Open to Interpretation, right here on the Ethos Media Network. Make sure you like, you share, you subscribe for all the latest content. Remember, Bar Exam dropping every Monday, OTI dropping every Wednesday, Politics as Usual dropping on weekends. Now, y'all know how we do here. We get into a clip. Now, actually, the homie Twan brought this clip to our attention. And this was definitely something that I missed this. You know, it was not in my radar. But I'm definitely happy that I was able to see this video because it definitely shows something that I think happens probably more often than, we maybe realize. But we'll get into the content of it and then we'll bring the fellas on and we'll check it out.
Isn't it true that you were the first person to become physically violent with Travis and not the other way around?
No.
Not at all?
Something or show me something if I can't recall the exact steps of the moments.
Question. Okay, so you were the first one to become physically violent with Travis, not the other way around. Answer. Correct.
Yes, it's correct.
You remember that?
Yes.
So you smashed his iPhone not out of anger, but because you were hurt?
Yes.
Okay.
And I didn't send my brothers to kill him.
No, you just sent a text to go shoot up his shit, right?
I didn't say shoot him.
You sent a text to go shoot up his shit, right?
Correct.
Tell the jury what the shit is.
When you're angry, you say things. I'm sure everyone in this courtroom has said something when I'm trying to speak. If you want me to answer your question, you have to let me answer your question.
Well, if you were responsive to my question, I wouldn't have.
All right. Answer the question, please.
Okay. Can you repeat your question?
Question was shit. What does shit mean in the context of that text?
Anything but him.
Okay. So it could have been his brother.
No.
It could have been the house.
Nothing violent toward a person.
It could have been his mother's house, right?
I was upset and my adrenaline was running and I said something that I didn't mean. That's the bottom line of that. I didn't mean for my brothers to do any of that. That's why when my brother left the house, he did not have a firearm on him. People say things when they're upset that they don't mean all the time.
Text to go.
Since the situation has happened, it obviously blew up 20 times more, but I didn't necessarily mean for anything to happen to Travis, his family, his house, or anything. It was like my second home. I would not want anything to happen there.
All right. And he never raised a hand and touched you, did he not?
Yeah, he was raising his hand the whole time, like grabbing me, pushing me back. Yeah, the whole time.
Okay, so did he punch you?
No, he didn't punch me.
Did he slap you?
No, he didn't slap me.
Did he pick up any objects and hit you over the head with them?
No.
So why do you want to smash his car window?
Like I said, it wasn't intentional. I was just throwing things because I was upset.
And when you were throwing things, you were also screaming things at him, like you were going to send your brother Keyshawn over to kill him, right?
Never, ever, ever said the word kill at all.
Okay, so
4 men showed up at his front door.
And you told both of them that Travis.
Since the situation has happened,
You muted. You muted.
I am muted. We have the homie Twan in the building. We have LOF Lack of Flaws in the building. So Twan, let's start with you, man. Because you brought this clip to our attention. Speak on it.
You mean speak in general or just?
Just what hit your mind when you saw that, and what made you say we need to talk about this?
I just think it happens all too often, man. I think luckily for Mr. Rudolph, there was a Ring camera that disproved what the young lady was saying, because if it wasn't, he would probably be screwed. So what I've known to happen way too often is men get accused of things that aren't true. And there is usually no repercussion for the accuser. And that's really my biggest problem, because regardless of what happened, Somebody is in jail fighting for their life, and somebody lost their life, and she's the root cause of it. Why isn't she on trial? What I'm starting to say is, I'm not trying to scare victims, because there are women that are victims of domestic violence, rape, sexual assault, and a bunch of other like hideous things. But there are also men who are very much falsely accused. And my biggest argument is this: if you accuse somebody, you should at least face half of the maximum jail time they would receive if you was telling the truth. If Travis Rudolph could have faced 20 years, she should be facing 10 years. And that's just how I feel, because it goes both ways. Like, there are men that do things to women, and there are a lot of men who are falsely accused. And I'm just ready to stand up for the men that are falsely accused. Just to piggyback on this, because Travis Rudolph was a former football player. But look at this situation here. It was another guy named Amir Rip that played for Ohio State. 3 years ago, he was accused of sexual assault. It took 3 years for the litigation to end to find out the young lady wasn't telling the truth. He was an NFL prospect. He was going to get drafted. Now, 3 years later, at 23 years old, where's his life? It's fucked up.
Definitely. I definitely understand that perspective, man. Flaw, would you like to respond to anything Twan said, or would you like to comment on the video directly?
I mean, no, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, I really like don't have much to add. This is one of those things where it's just kind of tough. It's a tough spot for everybody that's involved. Um, like, yeah, we do have to be held accountable for the things that we say. Like, we gotta. That's all people. That's not just this young lady. That's not just the gentleman involved. That's like, we all have to be accountable for our actions. But the ability for people to take other people's words, that's the part of it that I believe is probably the most disheartening, because they were ready to take her word for it. And if you, like Twan said, if there wasn't a ring camera, like, this isn't even something that we would be having this type of conversation about. And the media will be having a completely different narrative. And that's like, I'm starting to see a trend of things that's like, I don't like where we're headed. I just don't like where we're going.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that too. Um, so just a quick story. Close friend of mine from high school, we will call him Don because that's not his name. So we'll call him Don. He was, what we found out later, falsely accused by somebody else that we went to school with. And basically what ended up happening with it kind of ruined his life for a certain amount of time. Like, he ended up being able to kind of recover and get out of it. But a lot of it was, he was in school at this, or he wasn't able to graduate high school. He had to get his GED because he got kicked out of school. So that's number one. Number two, when he was able to go to college, he was on probation, and he did something very minor, like having alcohol in your dorm or something like that. But that was enough to get him locked up because it was probation. After all of this happened, he gets kicked out of college now. So you kicked out of high school, kicked out of college, you got this on your record. And then the girl came out and said she made it all up, like, after that, because she was mad that he didn't want to sleep with her. So I definitely am with you that I see this type of stuff and all of that. But I guess my question to follow up all of that would be, when do you think, like, was it always like that? I guess is my first question to you guys, as far as you can remember, like, in our lifetime. Was it always kind of a, if the woman says it, believe her, or do you think that changed at some point?
No, I think it was always like that. I mean, have we all never heard of a case called Emmett Till? Like, how old was that? 100 years ago? I don't know how long ago that
No, I
was.
guess, I guess I'll take it. I'll be the one to put the cards on the table. Are you asking, when did black women start lying on black men? Is that the question? Is that really what you want to know? Because white women historically have lied on black men and got them killed. So that goes back forever. So are you really asking, when did black women start lying to the courts on legal documentation and to the law about that? I'm just want to make sure that we having the same conversation.
Yeah. Now, thank you for that clarification, because I do think that there was definitely a time when we were growing up, and maybe slightly before we were growing up, but a little bit of our childhood, where there was kind of this thing where, like, when women were maybe abuse victims or things like that, where they were quiet about it. They didn't want to put dude on Front Street. They didn't want to, maybe he had other good things going on that they didn't want to ruin. It seemed like there was a lot more, of that side. So yeah, like, I guess that is a better way to focus it, like, dealing with black people specifically. Because yeah, the Emmett Till thing, I do think that was more racially motivated than gender specific. But keeping it with black people, that makes it only gender. So yeah, that's my question. Yeah, when do you think black women started using the courts against us in these type of ways?
Oh, Twan, I had to get that one to you. I'm super interested in what you have to say.
If I had to put a date on it, I would probably say 90s, 2000s. I would probably say after the 80s, when the crack epidemic hit, and a lot of men started getting incarcerated or being deadbeat to the situations. I think the generation of women after that harbored a lot of emotional, I don't want to use the word hatred, but they had a lot of, like, bent up emotional issues towards a lot of men. And I think with a lot of ways of not really being able to get it off. And I think when a lot of women start understanding that, I could go to court, or I can go to the friend of the court, child support, and say that my baby daddy hasn't been paying child support, even though he's been paying it, he just hasn't had any receipts. And they start understanding the consequences that would happen to some of these men. I think a lot of vindictive women just start being able to be like, okay, I got an advantage right here. I'll go in here. I'll go to the friend of the court. So I'll go to the actual court system, say a young man did something to me because I might be ashamed or I might be mad. And, and I think when they find out that they were lying and women were going unpunished, it just opened up a whole can of worms. Like, I don't understand that. Like, for the life of me, I don't understand how you can accuse somebody of a crime and that's not a crime.
So let me ask you this then, because that's actually an interesting point, and I definitely want both of you to give me your viewpoint on it. What about in situations, which this is not the situation, the video that we just watched is not the situation I'm going to bring up. But what about people who maybe through some sort of, like, and this is going to seem like I'm giving an excuse, but I'm not trying to, like, I do really think this happens, where during the act, let's say it's two people having sex, during the act, maybe the girl starts feeling different about it, or, whatever, or something like that, or she shows pretty obvious signs of being uncomfortable or something like that. Dude doesn't stop. And then the next day she says, something happened to her. Is she wrong, or is she just interpreting what happened incorrectly? And if that's the case, like, if that's because everybody can look at the same crime, and that's why they don't really rely on eyewitness testimony, because everybody tells a different story. So I guess that's my question. Like, what if she's just recounting what happened incorrectly? Should she still be punished for that, or is that something different?
Yeah, you should be punished, because at the end of the day, the
When you bring
consequences.
charges, you need to be sure. When you bring charges, you need to be sure.
Yeah.
Flat out. When you come forward, when you step forward and you say this person did this to me, you need to be sure.
Do you think that's going to discourage anybody, or do you think that could discourage anybody from wanting to come forward because they're like, well, maybe it was, maybe
From
it wasn't.
wanting to come forward?
Yeah.
I don't think it should if somebody really did something to you.
That's what I'm saying. Like, why would you not want to come forward, especially if you know that someone did something to you? You know that you were taken advantage of.
But we see that all the time, though, where women don't come
No, but they
forward
have,
for various
but
reasons.
they have different reasons. It could be they don't want the attention, they don't want the hoopla, they don't want anybody to know. It's a million reasons, and that's all their individual right to make that call. Just understand that not communicating, especially if you know who the person was that did it to you, like this creates a predatory environment for other women in your area or men.
Absolutely. I'm gonna take it a step further. If women know that a man sexually assaulted them and they don't come forward, you're kind of letting other women down because you're kind of letting a predator on the loose.
He's gonna do it again.
He's gonna do it to somebody else.
100%.
So, okay. So let me take it a step further then. Let's say something really happened, but it was, over the statute of limitation, happened 10 years ago. There's no physical evidence now. There's no
Now hold on.
eyewitnesses.
I remember the question that you had.
For sure.
You said something. The scenario that you gave me, it really just bothered me because it was really complex. Because what you actually said was, well, I want to make sure I understand your scenario.
Okay.
You said they were consensually involved, having sex, two people.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a time in a moment in there where she appeared to be uncomfortable.
Either uncomfortable or didn't want to be doing it no more, but didn't
No.
say.
I need you to stop right there because this is where niggas go to jail, don't go to jail, the whole 9 yards. And what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, because there's a difference between a woman who you could have a large penis and she's uncomfortable at your size or the angle that you're having sex at. That's completely different than her giving off an energy of I don't want to be doing this anymore and trying to stop you. So I need to be crystal clear when we even speak on this scenario, when we say she was uncomfortable, because those are drastically different things as a grown man who at this point has been actively having sex for a while, enough to be able to say comfort comes in many shapes and forms. You could have a person that's 100% ready and willing, and you catch the wrong angle, and now that same person is a little uncomfortable. So we gotta speak on that. We gotta be careful with the words that we choose, and we gotta do a better job of asking more questions to get more clarity.
The reason why I said it like that is because while I agree with you, I think, and definitely comment on this, but I definitely think, especially over the Me Too era, when that was at its height, a lot of these words that may seem ambiguous or may seem, like they don't specifically mean anything enough to be able to do anything about it, were being thrown around very freely as reasons for people to, they call it Me Too and dudes, but basically for dudes to get, that type of light on them. Like they could be making women uncomfortable.
Here's
The
the thing.
I'm
But when we
sorry thing
talk,
was just him making a girl uncomfortable. All he did was ask for some dome. She gave it to him, and then the next day she put him on blast and said that he was being a creep and all of this stuff, and that did negatively impact his career for a little while. So even though we understand that uncomfortable might mean different things, that's all they have to say for it to be a problem. So that's why I said it like that. But go ahead.
no, and I understand what you're saying, that's the phrase that is able to be thrown out there and it be like, oh no one should ever make you feel uncomfortable.
There you go.
Well, that's just unfucking true. And it's
Okay.
a lie that we're telling ourselves, so we need to stop right there, because you walk into your car late at night and a person larger than you walking toward you and it's dark can make you uncomfortable. That person isn't wrong for walking down the street because they made you uncomfortable. A person may tell you something, tell you that an outfit that you're wearing isn't as flattering, and that can make you uncomfortable. A person could say that whatever, a person can do whatever, and that can create an uncertainty in yourself. Now, that's where it's like, hey, you being uncomfortable and a person doing something to, or a person crossing a line to take advantage of you or to assault you, them different things. And I think a lot of those situations, they may have said hey, he made me feel uncomfortable, but there were lines crossed in every one of the scenarios that you just gave me. We started off with a scenario of, hey, these two people were having consensual sex. So we're talking two people who are mid-sex.
Mm-hmm.
So for her to get uncomfortable means what we have to define comfort in that moment. Because this just went from consensual sex to a person that's uncomfortable. Is this angle? Is this situation? Or is this I'm don't want to be doing this anymore and I'm trying to stop? And that's a whole different thing.
No, I'm
Them
with you on
different
that.
things. Like completely. So I just think that we don't dive into the details because I think this is a microwave society in general. And because of that, we just run and we run with the headline.
I could see that. I could definitely see that. Let me switch gears just slightly. Because this was also something that I think was, discussed a lot in the Me Too era, and that's
And,
what this. Oh, go
and
ahead.
let
Go
me
ahead.
say this
Please do.
before you keep forward. These sexual assault concepts that we're talking about is absolutely not what happened here. This had nothing to do with sex.
Correct.
She flat
Correct.
out lied and told her brothers that he physically assaulted her, which resulted with her brothers ganging up with some other guys, going to this man's home armed, and that man killing somebody in self-defense. Somebody died because of her lie. And like the fact that she's up there continuing to lie and as of now isn't under any criminal, it's ridiculous. A man is
Man, hold on. You know what? This is crazy. Like it's crazy how even the conversation, this whole narrative just swung all the way around. Really, because we're not even focusing just on the facts. Like we're talking about, I almost said the F word and got myself in trouble. But we are talking about the way that things made people feel and not meaning what they said and being upset and being able to express myself and that not be held against me. And that's now, let me ask you guys a question. And this is a crazy thing to even tie in. She's making the same argument as rappers in court without a record. Don't hold what I said against me. She's just not using creative license. She is. She's saying, I said it. You have record or you have a documentation of me saying this, but I didn't mean it. It's the same thing essentially.
Yeah, but it's completely different because those people are using it as an art form. She literally, and they can't control who buys and consumes their music. She literally texted someone and said, "Go shoot his shit up." It was a command. Like that's complete. Like she commanded her brother to go shoot his shit up. Then she tried to say,
But wait a
"Well,
minute. But I guess my question there becomes now. See, now y'all got me on the other side momentarily here, because it's like, was there any monetary exchange? Like where? Okay, so there was no monetary exchange. Where is me saying something mean that this person goes and automatically does it? Go jump off a bridge.
well, I'm gonna say,
He didn't move, Your Honor. He didn't move.
I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna tell you this, Flaw. It's a lot of gang bosses and mob bosses and people that went to jail for conspiracy. They're saying the same thing you saying.
But they're usually doing this. It's usually
No,
an
not no
exchange
gang,
of goods attached.
not usually gang leaders. They're
Well,
just
no.
like,
I'm talking
hey,
about on the mob side that you said. On the mob side, it's usually money attached. It's usually bread attached to the hit, and even in the streets, it's still some level of, and they hit niggas with a lot of conspiracy on that side. That's neither here nor there.
that's what I said.
My
It's
whole thing is
conspiracy.
how are we dancing around? How are we dancing around the entire fact that just on a very, very, very basic level, lady, you got mad, you lied on this man and you couldn't control it. And if it's any lesson out there that I would want ladies to take away from this situation, is when you push a snowball down a hill, you can't control it. And I know that's a hard thing for some of my ladies out there to comprehend right now, because you think that some of you, not all of you, may think that you're all powerful and no, I got it. I can stop him. I can control him. I can this, I can that. It's a recipe for disaster. And I'm telling you in advance that you're signing yourself up. If you prime the wrong or the right group, if you prime the right group of individuals, you will get a wrong result every time.
And fuck that. I'm taking it a step further. She's just a horrible individual. Because guess what? She had to know that her brother was really about that shit. You know how many people in my family I could be like, go shoot some shit up, and I know they ain't gonna bust a grape.
But talking about, do we really believe that she wanted him to die though? That's what this boils down to.
Yes. In that moment, she has a mental problem. The woman was beating on a man that she thought was texting another woman, and she was married to another man.
But wait, this is what I'm saying to you. Do you really believe that she wanted him dead? Or do you believe she wanted conflict, issue? Do you really believe she wanted him off the map? That's my question to you.
I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. I'm gonna have to assume so.
I don't think she really wanted him dead.
The reason I say that, what happened to the word? I can't buy that, because she skipped over too many words. Why she ain't say go fuck him up? Why she ain't say go beat him up? Why did she say go shoot his shit up?
That's pretty specific. That's the only thing that you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a specific type of request. Even if
I know people who've gotten jumped and actually been assaulted, who popped up and said, I'm going to kill this motherfucker. I know individuals who
I'm not.
Individuals
that's not the truth. I'm talking about.
I'm just saying, like, I've seen it on all sides.
I'm gonna tell you like this. I'm not gonna command nobody to go shoot somebody's shit up if I don't want them shot. I don't understand that to shoot somebody means I want you to go get a firearm, aim it at him, and shoot him. Now, whether she wants him to die or not, it's irrelevant.
My question. No, I'm not saying that it's not. My question to you was the same thing. Do you believe that she wanted conflict and to put him in his place and to be seen in power? Or do you believe she wanted him dead? Number one, them dudes didn't roll up there like they was trying to put nobody down. They was ready for whatever, but they didn't come through there like they was coming through there to put somebody down. They didn't pull up on the house like they was about to go.
But see, this is the point. But you're making my point.
They went up there to confront him. It looked like they were going to address the fact that he put his hands supposedly on a person, and they wanted to address that.
But you're still making my point, because when she said shoot, somebody in that conversation and her brother, he armed himself. I don't give a fuck. Flaw, I don't give a hell.
Well, I don't know too many grown men that's going to check another grown ass man unarmed.
Well, that's the point I'm making.
That has a firearm.
Hey, look. Bottom line is, you show up to my house with a pole, I'm shooting everybody.
I'm not saying that you wasn't. I'm not saying that Travis didn't also respond accordingly. What I'm saying is, this is a fucked up convergence, and what I want everybody to, from my perspective, to take
this
away
the point I'm making
from this situation is,
her brother,
she lied.
Her brother isn't even the one that died. So at the end of the day, she at the very least insinuated and caused the wrongful death of another human being.
100%.
Because she lied about a man beating her up, who she knows her little brother obviously is a protective little brother. And yes, maybe in that moment, That's why people say sometimes you got to take time before you do it. But the reason I say she wanted them dead, Flaw, and you probably, maybe you didn't read the whole story. It ain't like she told them, go get them, and they immediately went. Hours passed. Her brother texted her more shit like, Travis is a dead man walking. I'm going to get such and such. At one point, when you say, "Oh, I'm cool,"
oh yeah, then I mean, at that point, everybody mad. And again, you know what? I don't know how these individuals function. I know it's text messages out there on some of these people's phones that are just ridiculous. And I pray that y'all don't ever end up in those situations because y'all phone will probably just sell you up the river.
I'm gonna tell you like this. I'm gonna tell you like this, Flaw. I've been upset with a million people. I've been upset with women I've dated before. And I've never texted anybody to go shoot somebody's shit up. And I definitely
No, we're not. How old is this
listen to
girl?
what I'm saying.
I haven't read it. How old is the girl though?
I don't know, probably 30 or some shit. Travis Rudolph. I don't know how old she is. He's like 30 or some shit like that. But the point I'm making, it's also the audience. You text and called the one person she probably know who will really do the shit.
Is that gaslighting?
It's some people in my phone I can't even send that text to.
Yeah, because I understand how serious they take things happening to me or why I made something. Yeah, I completely
Now, what we're
understand.
talking about here is people not being able to control their emotions. And obviously, she has a lack of control of her emotions. And it's unfortunate.
But that's why I said what I said. That's why I said, like, do we really? Okay. Most people that are angry, and Twan, you know people who have popped off and lost their cool and tried to hurt people, et cetera, et cetera. Do you think it was more power, or do you think it was more? Do you think it's power and control, or do you think? Because again, a lot of situations ain't no power and control if that person's gone. Like all of that goes out the window when that person dies.
I think this was just anger.
I'm just saying because where I come from, a lot of situations are, or a lot of things that I've experienced and seen have been much more the power and control of you understanding and knowing that what you did was unacceptable.
I just know I can just tell because I done ran into women like her in my life. She's just a messy woman. She's that woman that will get you to beat up her boyfriend and then be back with him a day later. Now the whole shit is uncomfortable.
Yeah, and that is never the move. Like, because you always for one, that's how you get people to not want to protect you, because it's like, shit, if I put myself in harm's way for you and you just go right back, like, then why would I do that?
And this is the point I'm making.
You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't make sense.
This is the point I'm making. She dated this Travis guy. She dated Travis for some time.
He was 27, by the way. It didn't say her age in the article. So
she dated him for some. She dated him for some time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the part where I feel like she's double selfish. Clearly, he owned an assault rifle. So if you dated this man for some time, you know how he coming. Why would you send your brother over there?
Yeah. No, I'm with you on all of that, man. And speaking specifically on the video and this situation, I think we're all in total agreement. The only reason that I actually kind of took it in a different direction was just based on when Twan said that if somebody falsely accuses somebody else, in most situations that's going to be a sexual thing. So that's the only reason I took it there. And I just found it interesting that he said that they should get the same punishment, because I've heard that a lot. And I just wanted to bring up the opposite side of that, like, because sometimes people say, like, well, that'll discourage people from wanting to come forward, because sometimes people are just found not guilty of shit that they actually did. You know what I'm saying? So should that person still go to jail, even though that shit really happened to him. You see what I'm saying? So it's just like there are
That's
complications that brings. So that's
that's
all I wanted to bring up.
no, that's a very. I mean, clearly that isn't very cut and dry. I get it. It's a lot of gray area in that, but at the same time,
If there's evidence, like in this situation, I am in total agreement with you. Like
it's a lot of
clear
men.
evidence she was lying.
It's a lot of men sitting in jail for shit they didn't do.
That's true.
And it's like, you ruined my life. Like, how do I pick up the pieces though? Shane, how does a man pick up the pieces? And all they do is pat you on your back and say, my bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, see, it's tough for me just because, like I said, I do know people who it's actually happened to, and then there was, no justice because maybe there was no physical evidence or no witnesses or
You
what
know
have
what?
you.
What
So
what I
that's the
would
only.
do
Go ahead.
is I just would play the civil suit. I would sue them every chance I got. I wouldn't allow them to have no income.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one way. Flaw, do you have any remedies to that situation? Let's say somebody accuses somebody, that person's found innocent or found not guilty of the crime, but it really happened to whoever was the victim. How do you think is there a way to remedy that? Or in Twan's case, where somebody is not Twan's case, but the case he brought up, where it's a man who's sitting behind bars based on something he didn't do, and then maybe they find out later. Like, how do you rectify that in any type of way? I mean,
You
you can't give them the time back, but
no, there is no number. I mean, there is no financial number, and the bean counters will try to come up with one to make it even and call it fair or compensation for
right.
time lost. But there is no number for a life. Like there just isn't a number that you can put on because of the free will that we have. That free will and that ability to get up tomorrow and do everything completely different than you've ever done it before. And the ability to go completely left in a good way and get to go left and get on the right track, so to speak. And that's the real blessing of being alive, is that freedom and that flexibility to grow, to change, to learn, to evolve. So when you clip that down and you take that from a person, especially in the context of what we're talking about right now, you can't put a number on that. Yeah, you can sue. It won't make anybody whole. I mean, unless you start talking about like a generational wealth number, and even the generational wealth number, it needs to have like that family damn near needs to be like tax free or something.
Yeah, I was almost thinking something like that,
Like
where it's like
I
you
need
give them a
yeah,
voucher for
I need
housing, and
it's
like
gotta
you get a
it's
free
gotta be all
house.
kinds
We're
of like
paying all your bills for the rest of your life. Like you don't ever have to worry about working unless you want to, because we took
yeah,
away
there
your
has to be
ability to
like
something like that.
yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like something, a fund to invest in. Like here's your personal money for suing us because you were wrong, because we were wrong, and then here's some money that we owe you every year to live. And then you know what I'm saying, like, and here's money to be able to invest, and we paid for the house, so you're not paying for like, yeah, there has to be, like, you got to put a person together, man. Like when you're this level of wrong, and it has this level of ramifications.
Yeah,
You can't just it's so foul, it's so wrong, especially for the amount of money that we send everywhere else to make. I mean, don't get me wrong, I understand why we make these strategic investments that we make in other countries and other situations, but we gotta balance it out. Like we gotta balance it out.
definitely. Um, Twan, just if you could say anything to that young lady who was on the court stand lying on her man like that, if you could just say one thing to her, what would you say?
I would just tell her to get therapy. I wish she would have got therapy to kind of help her understand why she reacts the way that she acts, like what trauma she went through or what she has going on psychologically that made her make up a story that ultimately resulted in someone's death and another person defending for their life all over your emotions. Like, nobody's bigger than the world. Like, and I be thinking that's some of these people issues, or narcissism runs so rampant and things run so rampant. It's like we all just specks in the universe. Like, don't do that. Like, would you want somebody to do that to your brother? But like I said, she sent her brother over there to do the shit. Cause either way it go, this the point I'm making. It's so crazy when you really think about it. And this is the last statement I'm making. So the nigga that you love supposedly so much, you send your brother to whack him. Then if your brother get caught, he's gone for jail forever. Now you're without two people you supposedly love. What type of love is that?
That's real. Flaw, is there any advice that you would like to give anybody in the story? If you could say anything to them, you know, whether it's the young lady, whether it's the brother, whether it's Travis himself, you know, is there anybody that you would speak to, and what would you say to them?
Yeah, man, we got to talk to everybody. We got to speak to them individually because they all got different talking points. So all the brothers out there, you got to have conversations with your sister on good days, not bad days. Meaning, you need to be. I always call. I use the analogy. I don't know if I made this up or not, but you can't run a fire drill in the middle of a fire. Like, you can't. So it's kind of like you need to be talking about things if you're going to be the big brother that's protective and there, and what you expect of her, and what's a healthy situation for her to be in the first place. These are the conversations that should be being had on an ongoing basis. So then when a situation does pop up, you both have talked enough about what you guys expect from each other, how you guys expect the situation to be handled. And then you guys have a feel for where each other is on, okay, what type of relationships are you in right now? Are you even in a space right now where I'm supposed to be defending you on that type of level? Or are you an instigator right now in your life? And you know what I'm saying? Like, you just, and these are all real things. I know plenty of dudes who jumped out here wild defending somebody that jumped off wild on somebody else.
Yeah.
And it's like, I get it. That's your family, and I get it. But it's like, especially if a person is not getting like jumped or anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, if a person is just out here doing their thing, it's like at a certain point, you have to let people make the decisions that they're making. Now, where, as I said last week, no, you don't sit up and I would never allow somebody to sit up and put their hands on my sister either. That's just not gonna happen either. However, I'm gonna ask my sister, why are you close enough for this nigga to touch you?
Especially if it's happened
Why are
before.
you even close enough for this nigga to touch you? Like, if we feel this way about this individual, if we feel that this isn't the move and this isn't the situation, and tension is getting to this place, why are we still here? Why haven't we removed ourselves from this situation?
You can't run a fire drill in the middle of a fire. It's genius, just by the way. You know what I'm saying? If you did make that up, that shit is fire and I'm stealing it. So on that note, this is OTI, Open to Interpretation, right here on the Ethos Media Network. Again, make sure you like, you share, you subscribe for all the latest content. Want to thank the homies Lack of Flaws, LOF, and the homie Twan. Join us every week on Wednesday mornings for OTI. And we'll catch you next week. Peace. For sure.